Hello, everyone, again, and shalom. Hope everyone's having a wonderful weekend wherever you are in the world. I have a lot of people have been approaching me about Satan. Oh, the devil. Yes. People don't like to talk about that too much because it's kind of scary. You've seen The Exorcist, you've seen a lot of movies. Um, there is shows on TV about the supernatural, the paranormal. I don't want to get into all that and promoting all that. Anyway, you see what Hollywood says what Satan is. You hear what the Roman Catholic Church traditionally says what Satan is. You see what most Christian denominations say that Satan is. But what does Hashem say what Satan is? Didn't Hashem create the adversary or Satan? HaSatan? Go back to the arbitrator truth, and that's the books of Moshe. There are 5 of them, or the major and minor prophets of austerity, blessed memory, or the sacred writings. The Tanakh is huge. It's mammoth in content. There's a lot of information there. So if you have really questions about what is Satan, and more importantly, what is he not, then read the Jewish Bible first before you go out into Roman Catholic tradition. It's not germane to get too much in detail, but understand that Satan, the idea of Satan or the devil, as old as Persia. Yeah. You remember the prophet Daniel of blessed memory talked about the prince of Persia, the so-called waiting on the angel Gabriel to come and interpret the prophecy that was revealed to him by Hashem. But I just want to, without reading to you from the Bible, and a lot of people don't like to be taught to like that, but I'm going to just give you something contextually, okay? The adversary is an angel, okay? It's a Moloch. And Moloch means simply messenger of God. It doesn't mean anything else. Now, there are ranking systems within the heavenly court, within Shamayim, before God. They are archangels. We heard about Gabriel and Michael are mentioned predominantly in the Jewish Bible. And Satan is referred to as the adversary. So the adversary, Satan, essentially means someone who's in a conflicting role, whose sole task and purpose is to discern whether or not there's virtue among mankind. Yes, I'm sorry, but God created everything. He's in control of everything. He controls every single power system within the universe. He set order from chaos. He established everything that we know to be true, that we can measure even in the most sophisticated laboratories that NASA and quantum people with degrees in quantum mechanics and the Einsteins of this world, what they're measuring to today, subatomic particles and everything else. Don't want to get too much off target with that. But anyway, we can read a Bereshit and Genesis to talk about the serpent in the tree that seduced Eve or Havla to say, maybe God is not telling you everything you need to know. Maybe you need to listen to me. Maybe you need to eat from the fruit of this tree to be able to discern what you should know that God maybe is hiding from you. Okay? So this is a question of virtue before Havla or Eve. Okay? So, Hashem set order in the Garden of Eden, right? Between Adam and Havla or Eve. Havla is the Hebrew word for the mother of all men. Anyway, so God established order there. Okay, he did something unique with mankind. He gave us a choice. He gave us a soul, something uniquely apart from every single creature he created. Okay. What was interesting here that only the serpent was given a voice to be able to communicate in a language that both Adam and Havla could understand. Well, essentially, the serpent was challenging the position and authority that Hashem had established in the Garden of Eden. So you had one worldview, one truth, and then the serpent was talking about another truth that had not been vetted or proven. Havla, eventually, I don't need to tell you all the story. You know what happened. The fall of man, them being exiled from the Garden of Eden into the world. They were no longer immortals in Eden, and they became dying. Their bodies immediately began to decay and decompose, and they had a clearly timeline established for them to die, to perish. The only salvation for mankind was to be able to have children. Now, the story of Adversary is fluid throughout the Torah and the Tanakh in general. We can read about Job, the great servant of the Lord Job, who lived in the land of Uz. Essentially, that is, where is that? Is Mesopotamia. Is essentially where all men originated in that area of the world. Job is the oldest book in the Bible. It's older than the books of Moshe. It's believed he probably lived during the time of Noah or just after Noah. I'm not sure what the timeline is. It's not really that important. What's important is the dialogues here. And some sages say this is more a parable story, not to be taken literally. But the Talmud's main consensus opinion, and that's the sages within our oral tradition, concluded that Job was a real person. And there's a reason why Job is in the Bible. Remember, God is very deliberate in what he decided to prioritize and include in our teaching book, the Torah, and exclude, okay? There's a lot of detail in things that are not in there. And the Bible itself is big enough as it is to learn. We read it every year. So HaSatan, who is he and who is he not? Well, we read in Job chapters 1 and 2, we hear about the heavenly court. Everyone gets confused about Elohim. Well, this is a heavenly court. This essentially is Hashem and his angels, who are witnesses for everything that God adjudicates, judges, blesses and curses, whatever. Okay? The best way to understand HaSatan or the adversary is to understand how a typical prosecuting attorney would work before a judge, a well-known, established, vetted judge and jury and a prosecuting attorney. Well, the whole purpose of the messenger, the angel HaSatan, is to adjudicate mankind, okay? To discern at the end of the day if there is anything redeemable within man to be saved. Is it worth anyone praying or davening for someone's soul to be saved and redeemed, on Yom Kippur? HaSatan's numerical value is actually 364, one day short of 365. Why is that? Is this just a coincidence? Maybe not, because it's believed Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish Hebrew New Year, is about a week and leads up to Yom Kippur as a climax and conclusion of that, is that the roundup of HaSatan's evidence, the body of evidence, his forensic evidence, all his case work and everything else, all the DNA evidence, everything else, whatever, the proof that he's going to bring that mankind should be judged for X and Y sins or whatever. He brings that up, and I'm talking just about Jews, I'm talking about Gentiles too. He brings it up before the heavenly court. HaSatan comes up before Hashem and his holy angels and says, this is the evidence I have to present that clearly demonstrates that mankind should be damned. You should judge them. You should wipe them off the planet. That you should have another flood. You should end their existence. Essentially what HaSatan was saying about Job when God was saying, have you considered my servant Job, the most righteous man on the planet? And HaSatan essentially said he's only righteous because you give him everything he wanted. So what HaSatan was saying to Hashem, there's no virtue, no real virtue in Job. If you bless anyone arbitrarily, you give them $1 million in their bank account, they don't have to work, they can just sit back on their lot, the easy life and no disease and no problem with childbirth with his wife, and you have money saved up for college. You have everything you could ever want to have. Why is virtue even important if you're giving this one person? Of course he loves you. Well, Hashem created Job. HaSatan didn't. So Hashem knew the soul that he gave to Job when he brought him into existence. So at the end of the day, I don't need to read all of Job, but you understand, God said you can take everything physical away from Job. Everything I have blessed him with, you can take it away. Except his soul you must preserve, because his soul belongs to me. Now, even if HaSatan wanted to kill Job, wanted to not only take away everything he thought was important, his livelihood, his family, and everything else, and killed him, took away his soul too, even if HaSatan wanted to do that, he couldn't. Why? Because God gave him orders to do certain things, and certain things you would not clearly do. Folks, this is exactly what HaSatan, or the adversary, or the devil, some Christians refer him to Lucifer or whatever. This is clearly what he is, okay, and what he's not. God created evil in that he gave a tasking order to HaSatan throughout the entire timeline of mankind. 6,000 years, whatever, since the flood or whatever. All the horrible things, including the Holocaust and all the wars and everything else, ultimately was to discern virtue within mankind. Remember Abraham, what he said before Hashem about Sodom and Gomorrah? If there's just 10 righteous people, would you save the cities if there were just one righteous person? Actually, HaSatan was saying the same thing to God. And God said no one has virtue. Except maybe for your nephew Lot and his family, and I will send my angels there to rescue him and bring him out of the cities before I destroy the cities. That's something very to understand. There's tradition, there's things that are not clearly in the Bible, things you take for granted all the time. Again, you go to Persia, the legends in Persia, all these things about, all the polytheistic belief systems about demons and all of this stuff. I know the Talmud, I know the Zohar talks a little bit about that, but these are just opinions. What ultimately makes more importance than anything else is what Hashem's opinion is. Hashem created HaSatan for a clearly purpose. I can hear about Jacob, fighting with essentially Esau's angel. Okay, many people think that was HaSatan. And a virtuous and righteous person, the Talmud says, every righteous person who's lived out their life produces an angel. If you're not righteous and no virtue there, maybe you can produce a demon, something evil, an evil spirit or whatever. I don't want to get into that. But you can read in the Torah, folks. Read in the Jewish Bible. Don't read it an interpretation like the King James Version is corrupted. It was not written by one single Jewish opinion in the 1600s. Read a word-for-word translation from the Tanakh to English if you don't understand Hebrew. You will clearly understand what HaSatan is, and more importantly, what he is not. At the end of the day, don't let your heart be troubled. God is in control of everything in your life. The greatest victory we can have in our life is saying no to that seductress, saying no to that temptation that we have presented before us. We have to arbitrate what we've learned from the Torah to be able to make that good decision, that righteous decision, to show ourselves before HaSatan and God in his heavenly court, Elohim, that we are indeed righteous only because we allow God to speak through us instead of ourselves, selfish selves, to speak in conflict to God's opinion. Can we all say amen? There's more to come with this. It is what it is. Everyone has their own faith, their own opinion. If I ask someone to respect my opinion, I have to at least hear someone out. I do have an open mind. But it's a closed book when it comes to HaSatan, what he is and what he's not. Okay? Take care.